Cecily, please take the roll call, please.
Counselor Gorley.
Here.
Counselor Richards.
Here.
Counselor Sanchez.
Here.
Counselor Thorstad.
Here.
Counselor Trask.
Here.
President Pro Tem Mahler. Mayor Coleman.
Present. Pro Tem Mahler had informed me he would be out on business tonight, so I would entertain a motion for his excused absence.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Cecily, please take a vote.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Counselor Thorstad.
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Maybe. Yes.
Mayor Coleman.
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
Yes.
Let the record show that we have 6 ayes and 1 absent. Before we get started, I would like it, Cecily, would you read the online meeting minute or meeting instructions, and I will be reading the in-person ones.
Thank you to everyone who is joining us this evening. For those attending online, we have some instructions in case you are new to using Microsoft Teams. At the beginning of the meeting, please ensure that your microphone is muted and your camera is off. This helps us keep a strong internet connection during the meeting. At the top of your screen, you should see a row of icons. The one on the left is the chat bubble icon. If you wish to be recognized by the mayor to speak, please choose that bubble icon to enter the meeting chat. You should see a text box pop up on the right side of your screen. In the chat, enter your name, address, and phone number, followed by the topic you wish to discuss. Sign up via chat will be permitted until the end of the consent agenda. If you wish to speak, please be sure to enter the requested information now. We will ask that in the interest of time, you do not repeat a previous speaker. Instead, state whether you agree or disagree with their point. Please wait to be acknowledged by the moderator for your turn to speak. Each person will be allotted 3 minutes or a modified amount of time at the discretion of the mayor. Please remain muted while others speak and for the duration of the meeting unless called upon. All meeting attendees, including those online, are expected to be respectful and courteous. The mayor retains the right to have people removed from the meeting as stated in the council rules. Thank you.
For everyone present, these are the meeting minutes, or sorry, city council meeting rules. Citizens acknowledged by the chairperson to address the council shall step up to the microphone at this table, give his or her name, address, and subject matter of their comments in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless further time is granted by the chairperson, shall limit their address to 3 minutes. All comments shall be made to the entire council and not to any single member or to staff. Any questions for council members or staff shall be presented through the chairperson. The council will determine the disposition of any issues raised, for example, placed on the agenda designated for a work session, future agendas referred to staff or do not consider. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, consent agenda. Councilors, there are multiple items in the consent agenda. At every council meeting, you are free to pull an item if you would like to discuss it further. In this consent agenda, we have a request for council action for the police department, interior painting and flooring, also board committee appointments and reappointments, an MOU with the school district and the librarian services, and 2 meeting minutes. Would any councilor like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda. Cecily, please take a vote.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Counselor Thorstad.
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
Mayor Coleman.
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
Yes.
Let the record show that we have 6 ayes and 1 absent to accept the consent agenda. Moving on, recognition of visitors and hearing of petitions. First, the police department commendations. So all of you, I'd love it if you'd listen to a couple of letters that we received, and I'm going to make a presentation. FBI Special Agent Hunter Fikes expressed his deep appreciation for the outstanding assistance provided by our department, specifically Detective Sean Potter, and our group of patrol officers who dealt with a threat case involving a subject in our city. This is what he wrote. I want to take a moment to commend and extend my appreciation for the outstanding assistance provided by the Sweet Home Police Department, specifically Detective Sean Potter and the group of patrol officers who dealt with a threat case involving a suspect in Sweet Home. This case spun up late one afternoon around 5 p.m. I quickly called Detective Potter, who I have not met in person, and received his contact information through Tim, and he immediately answered and was willing to help and provide whatever assistance FBI needed. Detective Potter and his team coordinated and collaborated exceptionally well to eventually be able to stop the suspect's vehicle and arrest the suspect, thus mitigating the threat to the community. During the stop, the vehicle was searched and there was a total of 8 firearms found in the vehicle, including a stolen shotgun, as well as thousands of rounds of ammunition and ballistic armor and plates. I believe the next day was Detective Potter's RDO. Despite his RDO, Potter came back into work and got to work on an ERPO, Extreme Risk Protection Order, and successfully executed the ERPO that same day. Incredible and timely work by Potter and his team. This case is being handled by Lynn County's DA's office, and they are seeking an enhanced sentence. This outcome would not have been possible without the hard work by Potter and the rest of the Sweet Home PD. Detective Potter's professionalism and attention to detail were truly commendable throughout this process. His commitment to seeking justice and ensuring the safety of the community is evident in the thoroughness of his work, specifically this case. I'm incredibly thankful for Detective Potter's tireless efforts in handling this case, as well as everyone else who worked it. His willingness to go above and beyond expectations have made a significant impact in the resolution of this matter. Not often do I get to work with these types of officers who are willing to drop everything in a moment's notice to handle a case that would have posed great dangers to the community. Please convey my appreciation to Detective Potter and the rest of the Sweet Home PD for their exceptional service. It is definitely reassuring to know that we have such dedicated individuals working in police departments in our area who we can count on in a moment's notice. The community of Sweet Home should find themselves lucky to have such great folks working for them. That's letter one. I've got another letter to read. This letter is from the Chief Police, Chris Skinner of the Eugene Police Department. Dear Chief Ogden, I hope this letter finds you well. I'm writing to express my appreciation for the outstanding work conducted by your department last week. We were notified Thursday evening of a threat to our agency that the FBI was investigating. The suspect was in the Sweet Home area, and the agent contacted Detective Sean Potter for assistance. We deeply appreciate Detective Potter's willingness to immediately shift his focus onto this case. His efforts in locating, surveying, and coordinating the apprehension of the suspect, followed by the thorough follow-up work to seize the suspect's firearms, write and serve a search warrant, and facilitate an extreme risk protection order from the court are commendable and deeply appreciated by the staff at the Eugene Police Department. Additionally, I want to express our appreciation to Officer Daniel Gerkman for conducting the stop and DUII investigation, Sergeant Jeff Hamlin for his assisting at the stop, Sergeant Hickox for his work on the search warrant the next day, and Captain Ryan Cummings for facilitating the extreme risk protection order. This was clearly a team effort from the Sweet Home Police Department. Once again, thank you for the exceptional efforts of Detective Potter, Officer Gerkman, Sergeant Hamlin, Sergeant Hickox, Captain Cummings, and the entire Sweet Home Police Department. Sincerely, Chris Skinner, Chief of Police, Eugene Police Department. I also have a plaque to read, and then I'd like us all to applaud this group. This is a plaque from us in recognition of outstanding dedication and service, Sweet Home Police Department, in heartfelt appreciation for their unwavering commitment to excellence and tireless efforts in ensuring the safety and well-being of our community in coordination with the FBI and other enforcement agencies to protect the community. Presented with gratitude for their exceptional service, courage, and professionalism demonstrated in the face of challenges, the Sweet Home Police Department exemplifies the highest standards of law enforcement. Their steadfast dedication and integrity and compassion serve as a beacon of hope and security for all our residents. Their selfless contributions uphold the values of duty, honor, and service, inspiring trust and confidence in our law enforcement agency. Well done, Sweet Home Police Department.
Hey, shake your hands, guys. Yeah. Yeah.
And Chief, okay, good, you're up there too. All right, so we're gonna take some photos of you, and I also just want to say thank you all so much. There's times in people's careers when you just, in my career, I feel so honored to get to even be a part of a team like this. And what you all did, it could have turned out so incredibly differently. And you saved, we don't know how many lives. So if we could just do one more round of applause, and I want to give you all challenge points again.
Hey. Susan. Just a minute. You want to keep this? Here. That's in there.
As those letters stated, we are blessed to have such a wonderful team of officers working here in our community, and they just saved many lives. So thank you so much to all of you. Keep up the great work, everybody. Thank you. Okay, moving on. We now get to hear from the Chamber of Commerce. There's a report that's due.
Be able to live in a community where our police department is such a stellar level. So thank you again for having me. I'm Legia Moll, the Executive Director of the Sweet Home Chamber of Commerce, 1575 Main Street, the address I will give you tonight. So since our new contract that we went into play, we're going to do this report from August to December of 2023. And then next year we will do do an annual report. So this is how we're doing this time. So one of the things that I want to share with you is who our board of directors are. I'm very fortunate to work for this team. We have Christy Duncan. She's the president and she works for Samaritan Health, the foundation with them. Then Shelley Larson is vice president. Kevin Van Cleve is the secretary treasurer and he works for Cascade Timber. And then Erica Bayham with Be Accountable is that, and also the Rio. Michael Hall, of course, everyone knows him with the Point Restaurant. Erica and Michael are our newest board members. Carla Hogan with HomeSmart Realty, Travis Lutmer with Country Financial, Wendy Melcher with Cadwell Realty Group, Sweet Home, and then Vance Monroe is with Radiator Supply House. And that is we have a nice full board of 9. That's a good number for us. And it's one of the reasons why I chose to jump ship from the city and go work for the Chamber of Commerce is I knew that they were in a better place than that hurricane period. That's my reference there. So getting on to the analytics, what we do, because we get the stipend to cover the visitor center. This is some of the breakdowns differentiating the majority of visits that came through in the season because it's not the heavy tourist season, right? But we did have people from California, different towns in Oregon. And we've had multiple visits from people in Corvallis and Eugene, but Centralia, Washington, Olympia, somebody from Mexico. So there is a large, but you're seeing it. There's over 260 visits in those that just walk in the door. Then the phone calls, the majority is still business related, but we're able to point people in the right direction between notaries and Airbnb. We had, because this was during the Christmas season, people had questions about the Parade of Lights and the Christmas cards that we do. We had questions about the Church Mouse Gallery, questions about a ghost town. One of the things that was super interesting to me is, I don't know how many of you are familiar with ChatGPT AI, where you can have it write different, maybe emails to people or whatever, articles for newsletters. That might happen in my office. But I got a phone call from a woman who was asking about where to visit in Sweet Home. And she said she was from Eugene, but you could tell she wasn't really from Eugene. She was really from California. So, but she was smart. She said that in layers, right? But she said that this was the unique part, was that she had asked Chat where to go for a day trip.
And ChatGPT actually told her to go to Sweet Home, Oregon, where to go within a short distance for a day trip. And I think that's pretty fun. So we might hear some bad things about AI, but hey, that's a win right there for me. So sorry, got off on my, you can have all the facts, but it's those fun stories too that you need to know. So rock hounding, of course, is a big one for our area. Then people had questions about pickleball courts, which we don't have yet, but the hope is maybe soon. And then several inquiries about our tables and chairs that we have for rent. Thank you to the Sweet Home Community Foundation for that generous grant. Just in case it's on the record officially. So then our biggest thing this last time, you might not think that it's a tourist thing. It is a tourist thing. For Christmas activities, we have so many activities that happen at Christmas time, and I compile them. They are not even activities just for chamber members. If it's a activity that's happening at the Christmas season, I put it in this massive list, and it had a reach of over 13,000 people for social media. And considering our followers are only 4,000, that's pretty good reach. So, and we had 78 comments, which I mean might not be a lot for a city Facebook post, but ours were friendly comments. So just sorry, not sorry. So we had the tourist packets that were mailed out were sent off to Newton, New Jersey and Scottsdale, Arizona. The Arizona one made more sense to me than the New Jersey one, but we sent it. I asked them how they even found out about Oregon, clear over there in New Jersey, but they're interested in visiting. So we sent it off to them. So as I said before, Michael Hall and Erica Bayham are our newest board members. Just a quick overview. We finished off 2023 with it's the first year since 2017 that our normal income was higher than our normal expenses. So being in the black is a really good move in the accounting thing. So that was super exciting. And then highest income since 2017, which is more important when the expenses are lower than the income. So that is the big one. So the projected activities going forward for this next year, we have the community-wide yard sales were a big hit this last summer. Sportsman holiday festivities, partnering the activities of that weekend. We have Cut the Gut as ours and the holiday parade, but we also communicate the other activities that are happening, that the craft and the arts and crafts fair that happen and the Lager Olympics, we at least communicate and work with them. And then the Christmas and Sweet Home, we do the Parade of Lights. And I am in talks with the current person that basically owns the gingerbread competition, and I'm offering to take that off her hands. And so we'll finalize those details. And so that we want to maintain that. We've done that for 5 years here in Sweet Home. So we want to keep that going. So you'll see more information coming from there. And then some potential, we already are working on some fun ideas for 2025. And I'm sure you all are aware that I meet on we're back on meeting on a regular basis with City Manager Kelsey, so we can come up with ideas and see about our partnership. So I don't know if we want to wait on making any sort of announcements and flesh out ideas more, or do you want to share it?
I'm good either way. If you want to do it,
You can share it.
No,
You
go
could-
ahead.
Okay, so here's the idea. Back in the day, we used to do a sweetheart run. I don't know if you can tell, I'm not much of a runner. So that never really, and Pat Gray started doing that, and she was a runner. And so when it came over to Angela and myself, when I worked at the city too, it just didn't, and the weather is bad. So guess what's more fun? So food. So February of 2025, because it's a little late to do it for 24, right? We're going to do Sweet Home Treats Fest. So it'll be savory and sweet. So like, because some people might think that the stuff from the Sweet Home Meat Market is a treat, right? We do at our house.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
It's
their
delicious.
jerky is amazing. So, so that's what we're going to be doing. So keep your eyes open for that. We want our local businesses, our local, whether it's a restaurant or actually, you know, an in-home bakery to participate in. It'll draw people in for that. So that is something fun that we're working on already. So, now, oh, and this was other item. I just wanted to say our community calendar, we had over just in that August to December, over 170 different events listed on our calendar. So it is getting utilized. So, and also the fun thing for me was the Parade of Lights. We had 71 entries, up from 37 in 2022, which took 10 minutes, that parade, you know, so this one was a little longer, and that was fun. And membership is up to 145. We have that ebb and flow when a business closes. Obviously, they're not going to renew their membership. But what was really great was our newest member is, and that just happened last week, is the Eastland Museum. And they haven't been a member in years, so we're going to help come alongside them and get some good advertising so that they can get more volunteers and more people in the doors to see all the cool things they have there. So, questions?
Any questions, counselors?
I think your job.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for this thorough report. It's really helpful to see how the money that the city invests into the chamber is being utilized, especially for the visitor center, but also the success you are seeing at the chamber. We really appreciate your efforts there. So, anybody else? Thank you so much. All right. You are dismissed. The next item on the agenda, Sankey Park funding request. I hear Wally Shreves wants to make a public announcement, not specifically for us as counselors, but for everybody. Just remember, Wally, for name and address for the record, please.
Wally Shreves, 422. I'm the chair of the Park and Tree Committee. Boards for the Sankey Park Phase 3 improvements. I would like to state that 5.5 years ago, and think about the state of Sankey Park, we initiated a program called Pay Back Our Parks. And since that initiated, there has been a dramatic change in all of our parks. At this time, I'd like to keeping those great and getting them to the point. So with that said, if you remember last year, we got approval for the grant to put a new Handstand Community Center there, also improve infrastructure into that area, which people might be surprised to know that when we do something over on that side of the park, we draw power out of the Girl Scout hut, which is very limited power, and it creates a lot of problems. And part of this is to pull that power on in and over into this area, a lot more power so you can do more things. It goes up to Upper Sankey Park and trails down. And also provide a system in the hillside for view. For those of us that are not tall like Dylan, that have been to a wedding and you end up sitting there, you can't see or hear. You can't see what's going on in the wedding. That makes a huge difference, being able to have a tiered system so you can see what everybody's doing. So today, we started trying to do some fundraising last year. It was in the fall. We didn't have a lot of success. Kind of people pointed out we were doing this at the wrong time. We needed to do it in the early winter, spring, when people are developing their funding for the year and what they're going to do. So tonight, the Park and Tree Committee is announcing our initiative drive to go and gather sponsors for this work that we're going to put in. Now, why would people want to put money into this? Well, there's a lot of reasons. The bandstand that was there was taken out, and we promised we would put a new one in. That bandstand was used for family reunions quite a lot. It was also used for small get-togethers for families, but it was small. The new bandstand community center will provide an area for a larger band. It provides an area for weddings with a beautiful backdrop of the park and Sankey Bridge. It also provides a place for people to have birthday parties. And if you haven't looked on Facebook over the summer, I can't count how many times people are asking, where's a good place to have a birthday party at? And I see people constantly being told to go over to Waterloo or out to Riverbend because they have a nice covered area, which we have one. It's a very small gazebo that's dark and it's hard to work in, and you don't have a lot of accessories within it. So the new area would be amazing for the people to use. Additionally, what this brings in is it's also part of the link as we continue on with the park system. So this is the link from Lower Sankey to Upper Sankey, which in the future will also link us into the South Hills Trail. So all of the people that bike, hike, walk, take their dogs out, that ties all that in. So with that said, that affects pretty much the entire community. So for say somebody mentioned the meat department earlier, if you're going to provide meat for a barbecue, for a family reunion, people are going to be selling more meat for areas like that. Your kids are going to want to go to the park and hang out and do things, especially as we continue on with Upper Sankey, as this community has requested a pump track in our research over the last 2.5 years. So if that is to go in, you need a way to get up and down. So providing that for all of the kids, grandkids, and future generations, a place to play and enjoy, this needs to be part of it. So again, tonight, we're going to kick this off. Several of us met and assigned names of businesses and influential people to address. And what I'm asking everyone here tonight is, if you hear somebody talking about this, or if you would, just put out the word that we're going to be out trying to drive this project to make it happen. Now, I don't have the exact numbers, but the last I heard, we were around 60,000 short of our goal. And the overall goal is 290, well, might as well be 296,000 to do the entire project. So comparatively, we're down to a small part, but we need to continue on. And you've seen in Sankey Park the activity that has happened from what's already been done. This next part will make a huge process in our development of the park systems. So if you would give us a hand, there's I think there's 7 of us running around attempting to drive this funding, and we could use all the help we could get. Do I have any questions?
Any questions, councilors?
Madam Mayor, they've worked on this for years now, and we were very successful when they went up and begged for money up in Salem, and it was very good. We had a good group. Greg went with this, you went for this, and the other ones, and they did a good show. And so we got a lot of money, and it was a good thing. The littlest amount of money that people give adds up really fast. And if you haven't seen a picture of the plan that we would like to do, it's amazing. Bob Dave Dalton went up with the guy, with me up in, I can't remember the city, but anyway, we went up there and they took us a whole thing about what it is. And it's amazing how they do it. They put it together like the little things you do. And I think it's something that we need to do. I do. It's really amazing how big it is, if that's what we end up with, and how nice it is. So anybody that can help out there would be a good thing for us to do. So anyway, thank you.
Matt, may I?
Yes.
For talking to us today. Have you guys considered, or is it possible to have a GoFundMe that we can share on social media? Or are there any fundraisers that you guys are going to do, like bake sales, car washes, yard sales, to try to have that type of buy-in too? So
That's the one thing that our group has talked about. And of course, since we're a public group, we can't actually do anything till our meeting to vote and decide on. But yes, we're, we've talked about doing it on Arbor Day, is tying that together with, besides just the Arbor Day celebration, but also doing events in the park and going over to the community center, with the Boys and Girls Club, and doing silent auctions, spaghetti feet, or and a reverse raffle, which I had never heard of. So, yes,
just saying that I might like to buy a pie if somebody. We had the pie competition
Yes.
together, so.
she was a great judge.
City Manager Young, did you want to share something at the?
I just wanted to thank Wally for coming in, and also just so everyone knows, the city is also selling gravel and wood chips, and those proceeds are also going to Sankey Park.
Yep.
So
That's great.
one more way that we're raising funds.
Great. So gravel and wood chips is something people can purchase for this.
Yep.
Wally, thank you for your service on the Park and Tree Committee, and thank you for you going out and raising these funds.
Yeah.
I see your passion, and I think other people do too. So appreciate your time. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
the report. Next item on the agenda is the Small Municipalities Advocacy Coalition, and I do not see Mr. Sean Tate here, but it's in your packet. So we will move on to yes, other hearing recognition of visitors. So I have 3 visitors here in front of me. You want to come forward and state your name and your address. Karen Jones. Come to this chair here, please. Wait till you get to the microphone because we can't hear it in the recording.
Jones, I live at 37605 River Drive, in Lebanon, Oregon.
Okay.
And when it, do I say anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
Sorry. What were you here for, Karen?
Yeah, here's, Calvin Ames. The one with the- We dealt with it in Lebanon also. Same sort of situation. We lived in the county, Costa Canal. And it involved a lot of people involved in it, as far as people, places and things. And they had us all agree to remove some cars and remove some things from the property. And then it came down to going to court again, and we were evicting some people also that were involved. And they said that they did dismiss it all for deficient notice to the situation, to the attorney there, or the judge in Lebanon, and that they wanted us to go to the state for information and like start over with the state for the department. And this guy had private property that I'm talking about, and his private property laws go into the effect of that situation. So it was pretty complicated. Anyway, I just was here to support Calvin in the situation because it involves sort of the same situation.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. Is there anything else that you were going to share?
I worked for the railroad for 17 and a half years. I was head timekeeper for the Oregon Shasta Division, exited gracefully from my job. So I'm just kind of helping.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay. Who's next? Heather Kelly? Heather Kelly, please state your name and your address in the microphone and the reason for your visit, please.
I'm not used to it. I'm here directly for the Calvin Ames property, 1188, the property in question. I've lived there for the past almost 8 years. Just renting from the Ames family. parents before passed. But, so I've been displaced from this also, but in a bigger scope, there's several people sitting there behind me. Karen Jones, which just talked, Calvin Ames, myself, Larry Smith, which made the paper, Eric Ship, and I could go on. There's a long list. Those are just the people that are here today, that have been affected, misplaced from their homes entirely from the new code enforcement officer that been wreaking havoc on, well, what would he call? He called the undesirables of Toledo. That's what he deemed us. So, I mean, I don't know exactly how into it I can go today because I could speak for quite a while. He's right. He told me not to bother pursuing any legal action against him because I'm not going to be able to afford it. So it would be pointless. So he's right. I've tried and tried and tried and called every legal aid, assistance place you can, to help Calvin save his property. He literally built that house from the ground up with his father. He's the last remaining Ames in the area, and everything is Ames this, Ames that. Ames is a big part of the community. Also, I want to point out that when you look up the job description for code enforcement officer, it says right in the first three sentences that they're supposed to be helping people stay in their homes, figure out how to work with the city, meet, get their properties up to code in a timely fashion. I'm gonna have to say that he's not doing his job as far as I've read, because when they served the initial search warrant to look for code violations, because you couldn't see anything from the street at 1188, because there was a gate, because we have two big dogs, and then you can't see the sides of the house or the back of the house, and he obviously wanted to come look further than what was from street view, which is fine. Like I told him, had he asked me, I would have let him in. He didn't do that. He came with 6 officers. It was a big ordeal.
Heather,
Mm-hmm.
that was a timer for the.
Oh, okay.
So, but thank you for being here to
Okay.
support Calvin and his process that he's going through and for your comments. Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Calvin, please come forward. Wait till you get to the microphone so we can hear you. Okay. Okay.
I did live at 1188 55th Street on 14. Right now. I have been violated really bad by this guy. He was supposed to give me 21 days. I was out of town when this initially started. I was on the mushroom circuit, go around a couple different states, pick mushrooms. The guy was supposed to give me 21 days. Well, he started tearing stuff down on the 8th day. All my personal belongings is in my house, and I haven't been able to get in there to get them. And he said he was going to exterminate us, our kind of people. I said, I've got this on the phone. I got to take it over to the mall and get it fixed, but he needs to be kept in for criminal things that he did. He violated all kinds of violations. And I'm in the process of getting a lawyer right now. But, if we can settle this out of court, and be happy with that too. But he was supposed to give you 21 days. He started on the 8th day, tearing down property. My house wasn't condemned or the garage. He tore the garage down. The only thing left standing on my property right now is my house. I'd like somebody else to have an opinion that there's nothing wrong with that house. I could have brought 40, 50 people here tonight. He's got some criminal charges that should be brought against him. I mean, this is very serious, He called us, he said this was his town. This is the exact words out of his mouth. This is his town, and he was going to exterminate us or send us to Portland because he didn't want us undesirable people in this town, in his town. And it's a bad situation. it needs to be looked into. I mean, that's about what I got to say for right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for coming,
Yeah.
for your courage in being here, all of you. Thank you for your words and your comments. And counselors, there's a couple items on our agenda later in the agenda that speak to this. So we'll be addressing this in a few minutes. So thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item on our agenda. And I think I would have had them speak later if I would have known it was regarding those things, just so it would be tied in easier. Public hearing and request for council action regarding applications for publicly owned facilities and pocket parks. I'm going to open up a public hearing at 7:11. So let me read the public hearing instructions. This public hearing, like we said, is for application for publicly owned facilities and pocket parks. There'll be a staff report. Got one of those.
I can give a report. One thing I should add is this is not a land use public hearing.
Right.
And so the land use public hearing rules don't apply. We don't have to ask for a bias or anything like that.
Yep.
Yes. Are you ready for the staff report?
I am. Mhm.
Okay. So as you are aware, we have a process that's set by a resolution for how to name public facilities. And in this case, the Park and Tree Committee has submitted an application to name a couple of pocket parks that have never before had names. There are two locations. One is at Nandina and 8th Nandina or 9th? 12th and Nandina. On the corner there is a small piece of property that the city owns. At one time there was a bench there, but there's not much there now. And another area is some city-owned property that is on Elm Street. And Wally Reeves is still here, so he can speak to the process that the Park and Tree Committee went through to select these names. And then they are sponsoring the application to change these. As required under our resolution, we have to have a public hearing advertised that this name is proposed and give an opportunity for the public to speak on the matter. So I would ask Wally Shreves to come speak to the issue. And he can give you their background.
Aren't you glad you're here tonight, Wally?
Good evening. I'm the same Wally Shreves at the same address that was here a little bit ago. We've been working on naming these parks, believe it or not, for almost 3 years. We started off with, we were working in Upper Sankey Park and we asked for people for naming ideas. I actually spent time personally sitting at both locations, multiple weekends, asking the local people that walked by or those in the local community if they had any preferences for it. Additionally, the team from the Park and Tree Committee got together. We brought in, I do not remember the number, but it was near 300 names that we started with and worked our way down. And we voted until we finally came out to 2 names that seemed to work correctly for the park. And so that was the process we went through to come up with the 2 names. The one park at 12th and Nandina, we wish to name it Walkabout Park. There are a lot of people that walk up there and they walk about in that area. And it was a very good idea. We want to put a bench there with the name, place for somebody to stop and take a break because there is no other spot. And the other one, which is basically cross corners from O'Reilly's Auto Parts, there's a small park there. And we would like to name that Halfway Park. It's halfway between several of our other parks, the North Side Park and Strawberry Park. It's also halfway between the people that live down there and the 2 grocery stores, which when I was there, there's a lot of people traversing back and forth. So again, having a place there for them to stop and take a break seemed to be a good idea. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other testimony in favor or support of this application? Is there any testimony from those in opposition to the application? And any testimony from those neither in support or opposition? All right, I will close this public hearing at 7:15. So now, councilors, we have a request for council action regarding naming of this park. I'd like to also thank Wally again for the amount of time he spent with the community to find out the community's input. I really appreciate that. I'm glad to hear from them what they want. So any direction from council?
Second that.
So I have a second, or a motion and a second. Cecily, please take a vote.
Yes.
Counselor Thorstad, Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Richard.
Yep.
Let the record show that we have 6 ayes and 1 absent to accept as recommended this application. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, request for council action, code compliance abatement liens.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a presentation for you, and so the report, essentially, abatement is a difficult topic. Code enforcement in general is a difficult topic. Chapter 8.04 of the Sweet Home Municipal Code outlines a number of nuisances that property owners must either clean up or face fines or face abatement of the nuisance by the city. Abatements require the city to hire a private company to clean up the property, after which the city invoices property owners for the work that was done, plus an administrative fee. Sweet Home Municipal Code 8.042 outlines that procedure for abating code violations. When a property owner not only fails to maintain or clean up their property, but also fails to repay the city for the work needed to bring their property into compliance, the only way that the city has to ensure that it is made whole is to assess a lien on the property. With a lien in place, the city can ensure that it is either repaid when the property is later sold, or it can pursue repayment through the foreclosure process. So the following properties. Why don't I join the chat and I'll present it there. Just a moment, please. Okay. So to recap, this is the process by which the city is made whole for cleaning up properties. These properties are on the agenda for tonight. They have outstanding code compliance abatement invoices. 4143 Osage Street, 1435 22nd Avenue, 1333 13th Avenue, and 1188 55th Avenue. 4143 Osage Street. The owner is James E. Gillette, who is deceased. Violations on the property included nuisance building, noxious vegetation, and open storage. The proposed lien is $8,320. We received complaints from the neighborhood about a rundown building with overgrown vegetation and junk that was often used by squatters. And our code enforcement officer, Blake Dawson, investigated the property, attempted to contact the responsible party, but could find none. And after providing notice of the necessary abatement, again, when the owner is deceased, the only address we have on file is whatever is available from the county records. And we post that same notice on the property itself. But again, when there's no responsible party coming forward, there's no way to get anyone to actually do anything about the property. And so in this case, the city had to step in and abate the property, cleaned it up, boarded up the dangerous building, and all of the residents nearby were very appreciative. We don't have great pictures of this one, but you can see some of the issues we were dealing with here. Lots of overgrown vegetation on against the structure. And then this is what it looks like after it was cleaned up. So we do know that this property has not had taxes paid on it for some time, so eventually it'll be facing foreclosure from the county. Our intent, of course, is to make sure that the property is cleaned up and brought into a useful condition. Obviously, we've made investments in that, and so staff are requesting that a lien be placed on the property so that we can make sure that by the time the county forecloses for taxes, we also get our money paid back as well. And if you have questions about the foreclosure process, Robert can provide an outline of how that would work. We could initiate foreclosure ourselves. We could wait for the county to do it. There's options there.
Before we go on, can we take one at a time?
Yeah.
And then I can just ask if there's anybody in the audience here who would like to appeal regarding 4143 Osage Street? Seeing none, is there any online? No. Okay.
I do have a question. Blair, so if the county takes over the property, we have a lien on there, does the county pay that back to us? Or we just eat it?
Well, it's important for us to protect our lien
Right.
to ensure that we get paid back. And Robert might be a better one to answer that question. I believe that there are steps we would want to take to make sure that we get our own payback. Any comments on that, Robert?
We'd want to act before the county acted.
Pardon?
We would want to act before the county acted.
Okay. Seeing none, moving on to the next address, please.
1435 22nd Avenue. The owner is Eric Ship. The violations include an unlawfully occupied RV, occupancy violations of the structure, nuisance animals, burning trash stored outside, open storage, and abandoned vehicles. The proposed lien is $5,200. This is not a completely cleaned up property. Code compliance was notified, had complaints from the neighborhood of several violations. Staff contacted the responsible parties and issued warnings and citations. Occupants of the property claim to be working on the problems. However, conditions are worsening. The city abated an unlawfully occupied and hazardous RV, which is where that expense comes from. Those are quite costly to tow away and dispose of. Additional abatements are planned pending court rulings and available budget. So these are pictures of the property prior. You can see the travel trailer there. The city does not allow the occupancy of the permanent occupancy of travel trailers and RVs. You can only occupy them on a temporary basis at the most 60 days out of the year. And then it's been removed, but other issues on the property remain.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience regarding 1435 22nd Avenue who owns the property that would like to appeal? You would need to come forward and speak into the mic. Is this your property? Oh.
Yep, tomorrow. I mean, the code enforcer should go by and take a picture of it because I spent the whole day there today and it's
Okay.
looking really good.
Okay.
There's one pile left and it will be taken care of tomorrow.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you for your comments. Moving on.
Okay. Next property is 1333 13th Avenue, also known as the Church Mouse. The owner is Judith Moulton. The violations include a dangerous building, noxious vegetation, open storage, abandoned vehicle. Proposed lien is $39,812.60. There was an existing city lien of $69,770 in place from previous actions. And if the proposed lien is approved, that would result in a total lien of $109,582.60. This property has a history with the city. Many of you are probably familiar with it. I will go over the most recent history. Our code compliance officer was notified by Adult Protective Services of an individual residing at that property in need of care, and that was residing in a dangerous building. In order for her to qualify for care from, I believe, Medicaid and other programs, it was important that it be made clear that the property really was dangerous, and so the city went through a condemnation process to condemn the building. You'll see the pictures in a moment. It was in atrocious condition. Frankly, I'm amazed that the occupant was still with us. Staff assisted multiple other agencies to identify the hazards and violations, and that enabled the individual to be rehoused. The owner was incapable of resolving any of the hazards and violations. APS rehoused the individual in a care facility, and code compliance facilitated an abatement to bring the property into a safe and sanitary condition. These are a few pictures of the property inside and out. It was in pretty awful shape. And this one with the trash can is during the process. That you can see that the Blake, when he went out there, when he first entered the property, his head actually brushed the ceiling because of how much debris there was on the floor. And it was only after the cleanup was done that he realized how high up off the ground he was walking from just the accumulation that was in there. Now the outside of the property is clean and cleared up. The inside is not completely habitable at this point. However, to make it more habitable, it would require significant more investment. And that's something that's best suited for someone who buys the property or if someone chooses to demolish the structure. It would take, the structure has been condemned. And so anyone who had title to the property would have to bring the structure completely up to code before that condemnation order could be lifted, or they would need to demolish the structure and build something new. Any questions on that one?
Okay, so regarding 1333 13th Avenue, is there anyone here in the audience who owns or is associated with the property that would like to appeal? Okay, moving on to the next piece of property.
1188 55th Avenue. The owner are Eldred and Eugenia Ames, deceased. Violations include a dangerous building, burning and burying trash, raw sewage leaking from a structure, junk vehicles, open storage, trash stored outside, unlawfully occupied RVs, and general nuisances. The proposed lien is $38,223.60. Code compliance was notified by neighbors of burning trash and raw sewage leaking from the property. Staff visited, identified multiple additional violations of worst degree and severity. Staff attempted contact with any reasonable party, but none were found. I'll just add that this has been in the process since last summer. I believe June or July was when Blake first started working on this property. And every time he visited, there would be people there, but nobody could identify who owned the property or who was responsible for it. And despite all these attempts, we went through citations, et cetera, warnings that were issued, but could not find anyone to take responsibility for the property. Code compliance has facilitated an abatement of the property, including demolition of 2 dangerous structures, removal of burnt and buried trash, and cleanup of a pool of raw sewage. Here we have pictures of the property before cleanup. Essentially, lots of accumulated debris, garbage. And then this is afterward. The property, the remaining house is probably fine structurally. However, parts of it have been removed, including the chimney. And it has been boarded up to keep the property from falling into disrepair again. And so that is our report on that one.
And anybody in the audience who would like to come forward, who would like to appeal 1188 55th Avenue. And what you're appealing at this point in time is a lien.
Have any objections to the lien?
Objections to the lien. Thank you. You need to state your name again so we know who's talking, okay?
Heather Kelly.
Yeah.
Actress again. He stated that the code enforcement officer made several attempts to contact and couldn't find out who's responsible for the property. That's not true. I was there. I was the tenant there. I was there every single time that he came. I talked to him every single time, tried to work with him, let him know that yes, Eugenia and Eldred had passed, that they willed it to their son Calvin. There's a in writing a will that has been filed with the court. It's all legal and outstanding. However, Calvin took his mother's death particularly hard, harder than we thought, and which is one of the reasons why he went on the mushroom picking circuit that we talked about, just kind of a sabbatical to try to, you know, get prepared to take over the house and get things, you know, back in order. Because it just wasn't happening here. Everything was over my mind. At any rate, I was there. He told me that he called me anything from insignificant to incompetent but he refused to work with me or talk to me because I wasn't an A. Even though we were in a relationship for 7 years. And we're no longer, but we still live together and work together. So I very much, you know, and I told him I was in direct contact with Calvin, but a lot of times you can just pick up a cell phone and call Calvin, who's out in the middle of the woods. But I relayed all the messages and that he asked me to. He just wasn't having it unless Calvin was standing in front of him and he saw the whites of his eyes. It was not good enough for him. And then there was nothing I could do. I told him that one of my sole purposes for coming back, because I had been living in Roseburg for about 8 months, but I came back because the property had accumulated the trash and whatnot in Calvin's absence, is what had happened. People had come there and brought trash and, you know, without it being supervised, you know, it stands to reason. But my purpose for coming back was to get all of that taken care of. He gave me no time. He literally came and put condemned notices on the buildings, the shed and the guest house. One evening just before 5, and by 8 a.m. the next morning, he was driving a bulldozer over the gate and through the guest house. There was nothing I could do. I mean, I was and otherwise I would have had it all taken care of. My goal was to have it taken care of before Calvin came back because I didn't want him to have to see the home that he built in that condition. So, I mean, that was something I just wanted to do on a personal level for Calvin, so he could come back and, you know, kind of start fresh as possible. But by the time Calvin got back, everything was demolished. You can't undo that. There's, you know, and he came back as quick as he could. You know, when he's 4 states away, what can you do?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we tried. I would have been willing. If he would have gave me 2 weeks, I would have had it all done. Oh, you know, I don't know what else to say. I wasn't given the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you for speaking.
Yep.
And you come up and object to the lien.
Well, it's on probate right now. So I guess I'm not actually the owner. It was willed to me. It's all filed in court and stuff. When I got back, I loaded up 2 flatbed trailers full of garbage that needed to go to the dump. The rest of the stuff, I was cleaning out the attic and stuff because it's a big house. We're gonna have an estate sale. Well, and he told Mr. Blake, Jake Blake, or what's his other name, Blake? Or
Like Dawson?
Huh?
The code officer is Blake Dawson.
Okay, he told Heather that she could get her personal stuff out of the house, which she did, put it on a flatbed trailer. I had 5 flatbed trailers there. By the time she got back the next morning, pull the trailer out, he'd hauled the stuff to the dump and twisted the tongue to the trailer to where it couldn't be used. He did this to 5 trailers I had there, and I've got all kinds of witnesses to this. I had 2 loads ready to go to the Sweet Home Sanitation. He pushed, him or his crew did, one of the crew members, pushed the garbage off the trailer and left it right in the yard. Twisted the tongues on those trailers too, so they couldn't be used. He did this to 5 trailers. Then I had people take my pickup, a Dodge pickup. Well, he got caught wanting to put a big old piece of petrified wood that my mom planted cactus in it 30 years ago. Heather caught him. He was going to put it in a personal truck. She goes, "No, that's Calvin's." This is before I got back. So he walked over with his machine and dropped it right on the hood of my 87 Mazda pickup I had there. Just destroyed my truck. And I finally get back, so we take my Dodge pickup I got, we push it off the property over into the neighbor's lot, which I had permission years ago from the guy there. He lives in California. It's really hard to get a hold of, but we had permission to use that lot every now and then. We put my Dodge pickup over there, 2 trailer loads of my tools, and a friend of mine had his car parked over there. Next morning, we get there, and he's got tow trucks hauling off the trucks and the car. And he took the trailers. I don't know what he did with them, but had all my tools, personal stuff out of the shop. He tore down my shop, didn't even have a condemn notice on it. When he come there, he put a condemn notice on the trailer. Nobody had been living in it. But years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, it did have a sewer leak, so nobody lived in it. But, you know, the old stuff was probably still underneath it, which I had no problem with that, you know. You could take that trailer. But once he got on the property, he just destroyed stuff and stole stuff. It's true. They had personal piles of stuff that they took, destroyed that truck. Then he put a condemn notice on the house. That house is sound. I'd like to have somebody else's opinion to go there and look at it. There's nothing wrong with that house. There is now. He's had the meter box took out, wires cut off the power pole, but he did all kinds of violations there, bad ones. In the process of getting a lawyer, but he needs to be looked into for criminal charges. He tore up. It's crazy what he did. I don't know. Everybody that knows me and knows that property is just, they're just flabbergasted with this, what he did. I don't know if the personal banditti or what. But like I said, he said he was going to exterminate our kind of people. He was going to exterminate us or send us to Portland. This was his town, and he didn't want our kind in his town. Exactly. I got a phone. I got to take it over to the mall and get it fixed. But it has all these videos on it. Stuff that he did is bad. It's really bad.
Thank you for coming forward and
Thank
subject.
you.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I've heard a lot of concerning things about our code officer tonight. A lot of it contradicts what I've heard from other sources. Our officer does wear a body cam for this exact reason. And so I'll be reviewing those videos. I've spoken with Mr. Ames before. And many of these allegations, I've not heard from him before. I wish he would have brought up some of these concerns with me prior. We had an appointment to meet. You weren't there. So
This would be a better place to bring this up.
it's up to you, but we had an appointment. So I haven't been able to investigate any of this because it's the first time I'm hearing any of it. So I am very concerned, but I also believe that the pictures on the property speak for themselves. This has been an issue for years, and our officer has been working on it for the past 7 months. So when we put out notices for abatement, it's after we make an attempt to work with property owners and work with occupants to clean up a property, and they have plenty of notice. There is a violation there. In this case, we are forced to work with the property owner because ultimately they are the responsible party for the property. However, we do work with tenants when there is a tenant agreement that we can tell that they have a right to be there. In this case, we didn't have any documentation of that, and We didn't have, especially early on, there were different people every time Blake showed up. So we don't have, I understand what folks are saying and that I appreciate their point of view, but there were lots of notifications prior to the actual abatement being done. As for the crew, we hire private crews for abatement. City staff does not do abatement. Blake does not drive a bulldozer and does not operate any heavy equipment. And so I'm not sure how some of that is possible. What a cleanup crew does with the stuff, usually it involves putting in a dumpster and hauling it away. Could something have happened where someone on the crew took some things? That's certainly possible. I could investigate that and see what I can find out. But we didn't have any reports of this prior when the abatement was actually happening. And I'm not sure if any police reports were filed or made. Chief Ogden would be better to speak to that.
I'm not aware of any police reports made. I know that there were some concerns from some of the folks about the process, but we referred them to you.
Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to take any other questions you might have.
Madam Mayor, I have one real quick. So in my history of being on the fire department, there was many times that we had to go put fires out for stuff that was not supposed to be burned. I don't know if that's a situation here, but it can be bad. Let's put it that way. And having to put them out that are not burnable stuff, it makes it even worse. And I'm not saying one way or the other here, but it's a costly thing for everyone. I understand that. And you're right. You're not going to have to research this and figure out if those things were correct or not. So
I believe our officer is present in the building if you have any questions directly for him.
Any other questions from counselors?
Madam Mayor, if I may. So I just want to understand fully the responsible party is
The people who are on record as owning the property are deceased. Calvin and we actually, in our attempts to contact Calvin, at one point, someone anonymously dropped off a copy of a will, but we don't know who actually dropped that off. And it listed Calvin and his brother Waylon as receiving the property. However, no probate action, nothing was ever changed. And I believe there's taxes owed for the past 4 years or so on this property that have never been paid. So no effort was actually made that we can see to get this property into anyone else's name.
okay. And then can you tell me what the lien actually means on the property and the process that follows after a lien? Are they allowed to go back to their home, or
Sure.
do you go through court, or what happens?
So the main thing preventing the property from being occupied right now is that the building is condemned. And so someone would need to do some rehabilitation work to bring it up to code, and our building inspector would take a look at the property and verify that it has been brought up to code. Once a lien is placed on a property, it does accrue interest, but it just stays there until either the property is sold, in which case the lien would come up and it would be paid as part of the process of the sale, or unless the city takes action to foreclose. The county forecloses on property all the time for non-payment of taxes. And so they often go through that process. To my knowledge, the city hasn't done a foreclosure for quite some time, but that is something that the city would weigh when to move forward with foreclosure. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat. And can I ask Robert a question? So the Supreme Court recently ruled about the equity regarding foreclosures being due back to the property owners. Would that entail a code enforcement violation fee, or do you know?
I would have to just look up I'll talk with you after the thing and see what you've got, and I'll look it up so I can answer it.
I think
But
I know
right-
the case she's referring to, though.
Do you?
essentially there were some properties that were foreclosed upon and sold, and the foreclosing agency kept the entire proceeds of the sale. And I believe the court said, no, you only get what your costs were and not the full value of the property. And so if I remember correctly, that's probably what, I recommend further research, certainly.
Sure.
But the point is, our lien is for actual costs. And that would be the amount that we would get back. If the city foreclosed on the property and then sold it to satisfy the lien, then anything that we received above the lien and the accrued interest on that lien would go back to the owner of the property. Now, in this case, they would need to complete the probate process, certainly, but that extra value would come back to them.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from counselors?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
and just to
yeah.
answer yourself, we'll have to look into that because there's different things that go there, and we'll have to see if that case states anything that would change the ORSs right now, because you do, if is my understanding, if it works like this, that you ask if like two bidders came in and bid the price up more than what our lien is, and let's say our lien's the only thing on there, just for example, then the property owners would get the excess. But that doesn't always work if if nobody shows up and the property comes back, then then at least under the ORS as it stands right now, it's a different story on who gets it.
Thank you.
So I'll just have to see about the case that you mentioned and go with Blair.
Okay. Counselor Corley?
Point of clarification. So the person who has the property that has a lien against it, they have the ability to make payments to pay this lien off?
So certainly, anybody who has a lien against their property, they don't have to wait to be forced to do it. They can pay it off at any time. And it's
Yeah.
recommended that they do because it does accrue interest.
But they don't have to pay it in a lump. They can pay it off in payments as it's.
Well, it just reduces the lien. I mean, the city could make other arrangements, I assume, but let's say you have a $10,000 lien, you just come in and pay $5,000 on it. They mark it down. You only owe $5,000. It just is it's as simple as that. You wouldn't have to have anything else. You're just paying off a debt. And so if the person gets the money, then the debt's done.
And this is only for the expenditures of cleaning the property with the administrative cost. Because
Right.
It's also an incurred cost. But I would feel better reviewing for both parties, reviewing all contacts with property owners on this and what has occurred, particularly the piece where the cleanup occurred. But I had a question all along. When did the last Eugenia pass away? Supposed to
No,
be 3
April
years.
Fool's
Okay.
Day. That was April Fool's Day, sorry,
Okay. All right.
3 years ago.
I think that pretty much, if there was no improprieties in how this was done, this actually gives the owner an opportunity to start working on repairing the building because that cleanup has already been done. I don't know. It's always a tragedy when you have to.
And then there's also in the so everybody knows, there's also in the law, there's a redemption period also,
Okay, and what does that mean?
1 year. Means that the way I read it right now, if we go through a foreclosure and even sell the property to somebody else, the owner can still come back in and redeem it within a year and pay and do whatever that says pay off whatever it is, and they have to come up with the price. Some a certain way is done in cash type of deal, but there is a redemption period, just like there is with the county when they do their taxes. They do 4 years and then they wait another couple of years to have people redeem before they deed it over to themselves.
So that leads me to my last question. You may have mentioned this and I just didn't pick up on it. So a person has something like this against them and they do due diligence and they pay monthly. How long do they have to pay this back to the city?
Well, I don't think there's any agreement set up right now, but But the realities is if you're in a foreclosure, you've got certain timeframes you have to comply with. Like there's 60 days before you even start right now. There's 4 times in the paper that you've got to put it in. There's some other timelines. And then there is the redemption period. So that person has opportunities for a while anyway to get their property back.
So are we
by
foreclosing?
paying off the.
Are we foreclosing or are we putting a lien?
We're doing
put a
both.
lien.
You put the lien on to do the foreclosure.
But foreclosure is a separate action, correct?
Correct.
And so, and there's
How
no,
we're gonna
there's no
collect-
hard and fast rule as to when exactly foreclosure happened. It's kind of, it's a matter of when the,
Correct.
is there any rule on what conditions? have
There
to be
may
present
be
for that?
I don't say off top, there may be statute of limitations someplace along the line that it falls off, just like a judgment. You can have a judgment for so long and then after such amount of time, it falls off. But point being is that, there is a time period in which we can foreclose on the lien. It doesn't have to be, we could hold a lien for a year and then start our foreclosure.
If I may, just to clarify a little bit, so there's 3 separate issues already occurring here. One would be the cleanup cost, which is what we're talking about now. So there was the cleanup cost, which was the abatement, and that is what is happening for the lien. Then the house was also condemned, but if Calvin is able to go through the probate process and can bring that back up to code, he can absolutely move back into the house once that has been determined to be structurally sound again. Then finally, there is at a later date discussions about if we would want to go into foreclosure. But that is an entirely different discussion than just the liens. Now, having a lien does allow us to start that process should we so choose to do. But at the moment, all we're looking at is the lien. And then finally, because there were some accusations that were made tonight that had never been previously made, we're also going to be reviewing those particular incidents. I will say we have had some some requests to view body cam footage in the past, and those have always been just fine. So I'm hopeful that we'll see, but it's always prudent to take these accusations very seriously. And so we will be reviewing those in the next few days. But I just wanted to clarify. So the only piece we're really looking at right now is just the abatement and the lien. And then you're absolutely correct, Councilor Gorley. At any time, they could start paying back on that lien, or they could wait, sell the property at a later date as well. And then we'd be paid back.
Madam, I have a question. Robert, so does that lien ever go away?
Well, that's what we were saying. I would have to look up it, like I referred to, like if you get a judgment against a person, then it becomes a lien within the county. And
Okay.
those things actually do go away after a while. And so I would just have to look up to see if there's a statute of limitations on
Okay.
a lien. But it's years down the road, not, in a
All
few
right,
months.
thank you.
Statute of limitations are usually several years.
Madam Mayor, can I ask one more?
Yes.
When we decide on this agenda item, are we able to decide on individual properties? Are we able to decide? Okay, because I think that based upon some of the things that have been brought up, I would feel more comfortable with reviewing the process and making sure that it was followed, which I believe that it was, but just like you said, for prudent sake, and then just seeing if we can individualize each property.
Yes, I was going to bring that up as an option. Counselors, you're allowed to pull one property out at a time and make the recommendation, or group them together. We could also choose to table a property to decide on it after reviewing issues. So any suggestions from council?
I'd prefer just doing them all together.
Madam Mayor, I think I agree with that. Only because we could go for a long time before we get this squared away somewhat. I think we need to do what we can do and do it the best we can. I don't think I'd want to put them off for however long. It would make more sense to just take care of all of them and then not have to go through this again over and over and over. That's just my opinion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
when it comes to people's personal property, I think that we need to make sure that we have the process reviewed, especially with accusations. So I personally would like to table this until next meeting so we have more information before we make a decision on this item.
Are you tabling the whole agenda item or are you tabling an individual property?
I would prefer to individualize this and just that one property, table that one property and vote on the rest because there's nobody here to object. But because there's an objection with some accusations, I'd like to table that one property to review.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to table. I'm going to repeat the address, just clarify which is the 1188 55th Avenue. So with that motion, I will need a vote.
Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Richards,
No.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Thorstad,
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
No.
Let the record show that we have 4 ayes, 2 nays, 1 absent to table address 1188 55th Avenue until it is reviewed. Process is reviewed.
So just to clarify, and perhaps another vote is necessary, are you saying you're setting the liens as recommended on the other 3?
We haven't made a motion on that yet. Just to table this one particular one until we've looked into it further. Okay, so the remaining 3 addresses. Is there?
So moved as recommended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the remaining 3 liens. Cecily, please take a vote.
Counselor Thorstad, Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Richards,
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Let the record show that we have 6 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent to approve the liens on the other 3 addresses as 4143 Osage, 1435 22nd, and 1333 13th Avenue.
So our next meeting is going to take care of the one at 1188 55th. Is that the way I'm reading it?
We have tabled that one until the next meeting, and our next meeting is on February
So
27th.
My question then is, are we going to make a decision then, or are we going to put that off again? I'm just asking. I'd rather not go for weeks and weeks and weeks. You know what I'm understanding, so.
I totally understand what you're saying. So what I would recommend is that we go ahead and pursue our investigation of this process. We bring that data back at the next council meeting. And also, I can speak with you all individually beforehand. And then you vote on it at that next meeting, unless we have something else that makes it necessary for us to delay it to the following meeting. I don't foresee that happening. So I would say most likely we'll bring it back to that next meeting. So that would be our intent.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I will change my vote to yes for the now until we get to that session. And then I may make the same decision, but I think if we're going to make sure we don't go 6 weeks away, I will put that over to the next meeting we have. So mine will be yes instead of no.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda. Request for council action, Code Compliance Assistance Grant Program. Staff report, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in our prior conversations about code compliance, one of the things that the council expressed interest in was some sort of assistance for folks to get their properties cleaned up. We don't have a lot of funding for something like this, but we've put together kind of a basic program that could help in certain situations. Essentially, what it would be is a program that would be designed to help low-income households with common code violations such as open storage, accumulated trash and junk, tall grass and weeds, and junk vehicles. And the grant would be structured as a reimbursement grant. That is, no payment would be issued until the violations are resolved and the city receives proof of payment to a business or a contractor for the work needed. And then we would structure the grant to pay 50% of eligible costs, but cap awards at $500. This would require also property owners to show proof of their low income status in the same way that they do for our utility assistance program. And they'd also have to present, include with their application the notices of violation that they'd received from the code officer, so that it's clear what violations are present. This would only be something that would be available for owners of the property, because when you have renters, then you have a landlord who is responsible ultimately for that property and should be able to handle that out of what they normally receive when it comes to rent. In addition, we're recommending that repeat grant awards not be permitted, and that the violations must be stable. That is, the occupant must not be contributing to those problems becoming bigger. So in your packet is a application form and kind of proposed rules for the program. This is a draft, so we wanted to make you aware that this is the work we've done so far. If there are any changes to this that you'd like to see, or any suggestions that you see for improvement, we're happy to take those, as well as any questions that you have.
So I think about our own budget and as we move forward with these things. So my question is, did we have a cap of expenditures for this possible for the year? So if these are 50% of $500 and we get 10 or 20, how would we budget for that? How much annualized could it, what was the ceiling?
Yeah, so we could structure it in a number of ways. What I would recommend is that we have a set budget during the fiscal year for this program, and then have it be a first come first serve type program. That once it's exhausted, then we don't have any more grants for the rest of the year.
Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you guys for bringing this to the agenda. We saw what happened with our downtown when we helped our business owners clean up their property and provide paint. And I just hate it when homeowners and renters are stressed about where they're going to live because they don't have the resources to clean up and follow the code enforcement. So this little bit of a hand up instead of a handout, I think would be really great for our community. And I thank you for it.
Any other questions or comments from councilors? Any direction from council?
So moved as recommended.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Cecily, please take the vote.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Richards,
No.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Thorstad.
Yes.
Let the record show that we have 5 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 absent. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, request for council action, easement agreement with Alyrica.
Show tonight. Sorry. As you are aware, we last fall the council approved a franchise agreement with Alyrica Networks to put a fiber optic internet to the home network in Sweet Home. They, as part of their network, they are needing some space to put a telecommunications cabinet and other equipment. This is equipment that wouldn't fit within the right-of-way. Our franchise agreement gives them the right to install things within our right-of-way, but this doesn't quite have a place when it comes to that. It wouldn't be an underground facility, it'd be above ground. And so they have requested, and staff has negotiated with them, an easement on the old City Hall property that is, it's in your packet. You can see the map and the where it would be. It's a 20-foot by 20-foot square space that is right next to the southwest corner of the building. on that property, right up against the sidewalk essentially. And so this would be a fenced area that would contain their telecommunications cabinet. Essentially, it'd be like the main hub for their network in Sweet Home. All of the fiber optics would end there and then go from there to where they're connected to the larger utilities that handle those sorts of things. And so this is their request. We discussed what the city gets in return for this. Obviously, the city gets the service of what they're building, but we also negotiated a continued internet service to city properties that would be valued at approximately $6,000. So essentially, they also have told me they're planning what you would see would be a fenced-in square with black vinyl chain link fence and privacy slats that would conceal everything behind it. So happy to take any questions you might have.
So the location, we don't really know long-term for sure what we're going to do with the old city hall. People have had different discussions and stuff, but we haven't secured any kind of grants. And that's in the middle of where the old city hall building or the annex used to be. Why isn't it up against a fence or in the corner of the property? Why is it out where, because it could inhibit future growth?
Yeah, so that's a location that they requested because with their network and the equipment they have planned, that provides the best option for them. Because I believe there's also, they would have some antennas on the site to provide a redundant connection to their aerial network. So they have towers outside of town that have that can send wireless internet signals. And so that location is basically just right to receive those. And that's why they requested that location. So you are correct. It does, if there is future development of that property, it would affect that certainly. Anything that's built there would have to go around it in some fashion, or have it renegotiated and moved. But this is what they've requested, and what it works best for their system.
I wish somebody was here to speak to this and tell us
Thought there would be.
if any other place on this parking lot area would have been equally as viable.
Yeah, I can certainly bring that up with them. I thought someone would be present tonight, but looks like they weren't able to make it.
Well, Madam Mayor, is this going to be a permanent thing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so then and somebody wants to build the rest of buy the rest of the property, they're going to be in the way?
If this is approved and an easement is granted, it'd be a perpetual easement. So any future buyer of the property, if they were to develop it differently than it is developed now, would have to shape their building around it, or their parking lot around it, or whatever space they had planned.
Well, I guess I'm a little bit. Why does it have to be there? Why can't it be in the corner, the northwest corner?
I don't. All I know is that what they've told me is that this is what will work best for their network, for their receiving signals from their aerial.
Oh, I understand that part, but I've got a better plan. Have them buy the whole property.
So if counselors,
I'm not sure I'd like it being close to that building and interfere with the selling of another one possibly. I don't know. That's my question.
we could also table this item until an Alerica representative can be present to answer some questions regarding the matter, because I think that I'm also concerned about the location being smack dab in the middle of potential growth. So,
And if you have any other questions besides that, I can certainly follow up with them and get a better answer for you.
what's council's wishes on this one?
I'd like to table it.
Okay, we have a motion on the table.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this item.
Can I just
until-
clarify, is that
Yeah.
to table it until the next meeting, or just to table it indefinitely?
until an Alerica representative can be present. So whether it's at the next meeting or the meeting after that.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I don't want to, I don't want to hold them up for a long time. So if we could get, I don't know, we don't usually have another meeting, but I guess we've had that situation before. We keep people on the, so I don't know how we're not going to have another one this month. I don't think. Are we?
Yeah, 27th.
Okay, then that would work perfectly.
Well,
Okay.
okay, except we were hoping to have a truncated meeting because we wanted to have a goal setting workshop during that meeting. So it actually would probably work out better to have it be the first council meeting in March. But we could see if they wanted to be here for a short period of time. However, I would recommend we wait until the first council meeting in March. This would give you all time if you have any additional questions regarding this easement. If that's all right with you.
Yeah, we can postpone until March.
Yeah, I think so too. It wouldn't, they're not going to be building it tomorrow anyway. So that'd be my question. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. And Cecily, can you please call for a vote?
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Thorstad,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Mayor Coleman.
Yes, let the record show that we have 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent to table this agenda item until a Lyrica representative can be present, beginning of March, preferably. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is information only DEQ TMDL 5-year implementation plan.
So this is our 5-year plan with DEQ that governs our stormwater discharges into Ames Creek, Wiley Creek, and then also the South Santiam. All it is for information for you of activities that we've committed to, like leaf cleanup in the fall. We've also have some code adjustments that regulate, contractors during development. So it's those type of activities that they want to know that we're doing to ensure that we're not loading up our waterways. And this particular was updated because of some of the mercury and temperatures that they're starting to look at down the road. Now, we haven't hit the 10,000 population mark, but at some point we will. This kind of is leaning us towards those activities. And so there's no action that you guys need, just I'll take any questions if you guys have.
Any questions of counselors? Seeing none, moving on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you, Director Springman. Second reading of ordinance bill number 2 for 2024 by title only. Okay.
Ordinance bill number 2 for 2024, ordinance number 1325, and ordinance amending the zoning map.
Are there any questions or comments from counselors? We've seen this before. If there are none, I will entertain a motion to have this read by for the third reading by title only at the next council meeting, February 27th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Cecily, please take a vote.
Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Thorstad,
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
Let the record show that we have 6 ayes and 1 absent to move ordinance bill number 2 on to the third reading by title only on February 27th. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the third reading of ordinance bills number 1 for 2024.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to make one small clarification. We did change section 2, item C, to the membership of the Community Health Committee shall not be subject to the residency restrictions established in 2.10.020. Now go ahead and read it by title only. Ordinance bill number 1 for 2024, ordinance number 1324. Sweet Home Ordinance codifying the Community Health Committee.
Any questions or comments from counselors, especially regarding the change that is there for ordinance number 1? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance bill number 1 as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Cecily, please take a vote.
Counselor Gorley, Yes. Counselor Richards?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Thorstad?
Yes.
Counselor Trask?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes. Let the record show that we have 6 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent to approve ordinance bill number 1 for 2024. Moving on, there are no reports of committees, reports of city officials, city managers report.
Thank you very much. So I have a couple announcements that are kind of exciting, I think. So we are getting ready to have camping again at Quarry Park this summer. We're actually going to be increasing our number of spots to 20 spots, and that will both be in the area that it currently is and then in some of the treed areas. We've now had our wetlands delineation, so we can finally start looking at further expanding and developing that park. We are reducing the cost, so it'll be $30 per site for either cars or RVs. This will be still part of our pilot program while we're figuring this out. And if council wishes to change any of these fees, we can absolutely do so. We are also collecting applications from small businesses and vendors who may want to do a kiosk or equipment rentals at Quarry Park. And so the application is now on our website. It is to try to promote some business incubation. The city right now, we're looking at a structural agreement of the city taking about 5% of the profits. We want to keep this very, very sustainable for these small businesses while they're growing their various businesses and hopefully bringing in more recreation to those areas. Also, the community garden is about to start up again, so please stay tuned. We will be advertising spaces in the next couple weeks. We're very excited about that. It went quite well last year, and we didn't have any issues with cats, so we were very, very relieved about that. Then also, just as a reminder, City Hall will be closed this Monday for President's Day. And we also have decided to extend our mural RFP for another 2 weeks. So please get the word out, submit your applications. We really want to see these murals. We're still trying to work on getting some grant funding that could potentially pay for some stipends, but we won't know about that until May. And then finally, our next council meeting on February 27th will be our goal setting workshop, the most wonderful time of the year. So we're hoping to have that at 5:30, if that would work for all of you. And then we would have the workshop until 6:30. We'd have a truncated council meeting to mostly just do whatever emergency pieces we have to do, plus that third reading. And then we would go back to the goal setting workshop if necessary. So please remember to bring your top 5 priority projects, and I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Young. The mayor's report. I heard from City Manager Young that new microphones have been ordered. We can all celebrate that. You may be able to hear much better shortly. Thank you, Adam, for your efforts and your work on that. Also, Rotary is selling some popcorn at the Sweet Home Library for $10 a bag for a large bag, and 3 small bags for $15. And funds go to local scholarships, Interact Club, and the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which gives out free books to low-income households in our community. Also, there's we heard at Rotary today that there's Celebrate Recovery that happens at River of Life on Saturdays, and you all hopefully received an invitation to the local leader round table with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer at 1 p.m. this Friday at the Lebanon Library. Also, we were invited to Pacific Power Storm Response. You do need to reserve your seat for that one. You should have an email in your inbox. It is this coming Monday, February 19th from 2 to 3 p.m. at Jim Riggs Community Center. Showcase Gala is happening Saturday, February 24th. Oregon Logging Conference happens next week as well down at Lane Event Center in Lane County, and Sweet Home Chamber of Commerce Banquet is March 9th. I also want to say there were some good articles in the newspaper today regarding efforts that we have made to start some things in our community. So check out the article there. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is Department Directors' Reports. Any department director would like to share from their reports?
I just wanted to point out for the library stats that all of our stats are up over the previous months. We're continuing to grow. Our Valentine's Day tea on Saturday had over 60 people in our tiny little building. And we are opening our seed lending library next week, and we're coordinating that with the community gardens being open for applications as well.
Wonderful.
I just, at the PD, quick update. I wanted to thank Public Works. They have put concrete down in the back to put our storage lockers for the overflow homeless there. So that's been going really well. We're looking forward to getting a tent put over there so that we can actually start moving people out during the daytime hours. So that tent has, I think it's actually in. So we're looking forward to putting that up. Also, we have two of our officers who are in the academy right now. One of them wasn't scheduled to go in until later, but it's great to have them in at the same time. Yeah, so they will graduate in May. And then just want to thank council for approving the flooring and painting updates. That's much needed. So we're looking forward to getting that project going. So, oh, and also one of our dispatchers recently graduated from the academy this last week, and we're waiting for another to go in and get their training too. So exciting stuff happening at the PD.
Yeah, sounds like it. And you guys are doing excellent work. Yeah, thank you. Any other department directors would like to share? Blair's like, I've shared enough.
I think I've talked a lot. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to share more.
Okay. Moving on to the next item on their agenda, council business for good of the order. Are there any councilors that would like to share anything?
Madam Mayor, may I share something?
Who's going to go first? Oh, you're good.
You always go first.
No, you do.
So tomorrow is Oregon's 165th birthday. So I just want to say happy birthday to Oregon. And on that note, I got hired on as staff for Senator Cedric Hayden, and I've been up at the state capitol for the last week, and I'm just really excited to have somebody from our community again back up at the state capitol. So I'll be working for him during the short session because trucking is slow in the woods. So that's all. Thank you.
Congratulations, Councilor Sanchez, on that. And we are glad to have a representative from our community at the Capitol as well. Thank you for serving us in that way. Councilor Trask, you had something to share? That's kind and polite.
Kelsey, I'd like to ask a question for the, first of all, the Corey thing. I don't like that name, but so any money that we make from the Corey, is that going to be set aside for the Corey part?
Yes.
Okay, that's one thing. So, and also I saw something yesterday in the city of Sweet Home on Main Street. I was driving down the road at 25 miles an hour and a truck was going slower than I was. It didn't pass me, didn't run me over. It was crazy. A log truck. He was loaded too.
That's great.
I will say our traffic enforcement has been up the last few months, and we're hoping that it is having some positive impact on the community for sure.
There wasn't one side. There wasn't one police officer in anywhere in the whole city I saw that time. So
well, let's see. That's how well it's going.
You could have had them stop that guy and say, "Thank you for driving so slow."
The word must be getting out that there's traffic violations coming about. Any other councilors who would like anything to share?
I just want to know what the problem is with quarries, Dave. We love rock quarries.
Well, it's not official.
I sell rock, so.
The Quarry Park area is not an official park yet, so that's not an official name yet. So we will decide a name at a future date. If there's nothing else that councilors need to share, I will.
Just a second. We're going to have one of those things for 3 months to get the thing named, or is that just on us?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same process applies.
My goodness.
Well,
Yeah,
it could, but it's not park.
Well, no, it's not yet, but if you have a civic facility, that's what that resolution is for. Naming a facility.
I knew it.
Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda for a future date to discuss the naming of that piece of land, and I'll wrap this meeting up at 8:25 p.m.